Okay, welcome to the social media interaction. My name is Kishore Shallow, CYA SVG, and I will obviously be hosting this afternoon, the first segment of this afternoon proceedings. It is indeed a pleasure to have you joining us this evening, both here in physical presence and, of course, those of you who are tuning online. Over the next hour and a half, we will be engaged in a couple very interactive segments. The first will be 30 minutes, where we discuss the just concluded CARICOM Youth Development Action Plan. And the second segment will feature the live interaction with Secretary General Ambassador Irwin LaRocque, along with obviously CYA Dean Cindy Market. For the first segment, I'm joined by Assistant Secretary General Dr. Douglas Slater, who is right here on my right, Director of Sports from Bahamas, Mr. Darren Tonquest, also CARICOM Youth Ambassador Barbados, Miss Sally Jermott, and Chairman of the Caribbean Regional Youth Council, Timothy Ferdinand. So getting right into it, must apologize for the slight delay. We were experiencing some technical difficulties, but now we are more than happy to proceed. All right, so straight into it. Like I said, over the last couple of days, we have had a youth forum discussing the CARICOM Youth Development Action Plan. And I'll move swiftly to my dear friend here and one of my mentors, Dr. Douglas Slater, and asking you the first question, sir. The CARICOM Secretary has been a champion for youth involvement for some time now, and this document, the CARICOM Youth Development Action Plan, is a clear reflection of this. Can you please expand on the role of CARICOM Secretary relating to this document?
Thank you very much, Kishore. Good evening to all, especially those who are online joining us. It is a pleasure to be participating in this function, so very important to us. The question, therefore, will be answered in a way that you yourself should know why it is important. I would like to start with a well-known cliche, that is, the youth of today seen as the adult and the leaders of tomorrow. In 2007, the heads of government of the CARICOM region appointed a youth commission to look at the status and the role of youth in the community. This was recognizing that there were challenges or issues regarding that role. It led to a commitment by the heads in what is known as the Declaration of Paramaribo in 2010, where it was mandated that we need to have a proper review of the role of the youth and to come up with a dynamic plan by getting the youth together. And that is what this forum over the past two days have really boiled down to some extent. We are here to hear from you, get you together, to look at the goals, discuss the goals, and how we move forward. We hope to, after looking at the outcomes of the discussion, deliberations over the last 2 days, that we will come up with ideas from you, where you have been coordinating with each other and with the youth, hopefully with the youth across the region. We know you are a selection of our youth. We want to have total engagement, not just with you, but with, as we can say, the youth on the block.
Yes.
Involving everybody. And we hope that we can work together. CARICOM will take on the responsibility of resource mobilization, and I wish to take this opportunity to thank our development partners, the Canadians, through CEDA, now with a new name, but you may know it as CEDA. Also the USAID and UNDP. So the forum was about coming up with the ideas from you, the youth, and we really do look forward to seeing how you can fit this in to help in our regional development.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Slater, and I'll move and include my colleagues here, far right and far left. I can start with Timothy. And I know you have been involved in over the last 2 days. Can you just share some of the forum with us?
Well, over the past 2 days, I can say I have attended many youth forums before. They have all been exciting, but the past 2 days has been rather interestingly exciting in how we as youth leaders and ambassadors as well, how we were challenged to literally put ourselves in the place of every young person and see how we can translate information as pertinent as the action plan from CARICOM for youth into something that any young person can understand. And that has never proven to be easy. And so the past 2 days has been it has been an eye-opener for me, as well as a time of rich interaction with other colleagues on how we can make our representation relevant to every young person.
Okay.
Right. So.
Right. Thanks. And if I might go to the my friend there, my colleague from the CARICOM Youth Ambassador Barbara Shading to actually give us your take on the last 2 days. You were very much instrumental in a lot of the presentations. See if you could share and give us your thoughts as well.
Well, basically, I felt that for the most part, the forum was about engaging and empowering young people. And I think that's definitely what happened here. And I thought that what I would do in terms of and we talked about it. You know that we talked about it when we went back to the hotel. We had live discussion outside of the room. It was so exciting that when we left here, we didn't stop working. And one thing that really resonated with me was one of the presentations about basically turning up the thing. We're 9 million strong. And I feel that that's a message that across the board would have really hit home. There are 9 million young people in the region, and we have to take ownership and we have to work with the powers that be to really translate these demystified documents such as CDAP and make it translate from basically the letters on the page to the lives of the young people.
All right, great. And I think earlier I made a mistake and said the director of sports. But my colleagues who were involved over the last 2 days, I'm sure they will justify why I said that. But, let me correct myself and say it's director of youth.
Correct.
Mr. Darren Turnquest. And you sit at a unique position in being one of the few young persons given the opportunity to actually be a director. What have been your experience to date, and you believe, and do you actually believe that your youthfulness actually contribute to you being so successful in this role?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll answer the latter portion of your question, but my experience has been one that is truly amazing, and life in the public service is a peculiar thing, but as a young person, it's also beneficial to see really how things work, being a civil servant. But more importantly, I've really walked into this position with the attitude that I have one goal, and that is to engage and affect change in the lives of young people. And when I do that, my attitude is I do that unapologetic. I want to do it in a way where I'm able to be real, relevant, and revolutionary, and to make sure that young people keep me accountable as their director, the technocrat in the ministry. I think my youthfulness is a double-edged sword. Whenever you walk in a room, oftentimes people mistake me for the young person or the summer student, and I like that because it then gives me the opportunity to assess how they feel about young people and to address their misconceptions or some of their legitimate conceptions as relates to young people. As it relates to my youthfulness and engaging young people, that has truly been a benefit for me. But I think the most important thing for any director to really understand is that your major job, your job is not to the public service, but your job is to the youth of the country. They're your chief stakeholder. And I think with doing that with a level of sincerity, that has, in my opinion, given me some level of success.
All right, thanks, Mr. Director. I'm going to be right back to Shade. From the perspective of a young youth ambassador, right? How do you plan to share this knowledge gained over the last couple of days, to create interest among the youth and whether back home and throughout the rest of the region in terms of embracing this change?
Okay, I think this goes back to what I thought was the overarching theme of the entire exercise here over the past couple of days, which is engagement and empowerment of young people. I think that one of the most effective methods that was used here was basically bringing young people not for consultation but letting them create the programs, create the approaches, and that is definitely something I personally would like to find a way to utilize in Barbados. And we've already started thinking about regional initiatives that across the board in the CARICOM Youth Ambassadors Program we could use to translate a lot of what we've done here today into our programs.
Okay. And if we shift again to the right a little bit to my colleague there, the chairman of Caribbean Regional Youth Council, what does this development plan mean for young people? What are some of the advantages you see?
Well, first of all, we have to commend the fact that there has been a process leading up to the CDAP. There has been the summit report or the report of the commission. There has been the Paramaribo declaration. In essence, there has been a lot of talking, a lot of deliberations, a lot of interaction on different levels. And I believe that the issues affecting young persons have been actually tabled before on numerous occasions. And it tends to be very generic at times. What young people are expecting to see now is action. And now that we see we have a CARICOM Youth Development Action Plan, young persons can rest assured, or young persons can see we finally have a document or something that we can see as a contract between young persons, NGOs, governments of our member states, that can actually be monitored or promise some level of action to what we've been asking or what we've been looking forward to see. All right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Ferdinand. And I could go over this point to Dark and bring everyone that feel left out right now. But I mean, the two-day symposium held yesterday and today is part of the process to implement the CARICOM Youth Development Action Plan. But what other activities are actually planned to complement this process going forward?
Okay, well, we need to recognize that, following up a little on what he has been saying, the previous processes seem not to have worked as with the outcome that we wanted. Maybe we had what we call a top-down process. That is us, the not so young, directing or saying what should be done, and we now decided to change. And we believe that, in fact, I learned recently in another conference an interesting cliche: nothing about us without us. That's from the people with disabilities. And I think this is a good way of sort of showing that today, nothing about the youth without you. And we see that you are doing what you have to do. We recognize in moving forward that moving forward that the role of learning and education, human resource development in our region is very important. In fact, the CARICOM Secretariat has highlighted that as a very important area that we have to prioritize, and we recognize the importance of ICT. And I just realized a striking example of the importance of youth here. Now, we were delayed because of some problems with the technology. What we're doing now is responding to what was perceived as a immediate solving of the solution by you, member of the youth, because we are now using a different technology or process that we had planned before. And this is very encouraging because it demonstrates that our youth are ready to jump to the occasion, to do what they need to do when they need to do it. It has created a new opportunity. The use of technology creates an opportunity to cross the generational gap, as it were, between us and you, and making all of us at the same level, as it were, and to engage us, all of us, you playing your role and your part in the development of the region. And we welcome this and encourage you to continue.
Thanks for the compliment, Doc. For the ones who haven't had a chance to see the mission here, let me just take a brief moment and reach this. Now, the CARICOM Youth Development Action Plan mission, this is on, and it's to promote your original partnership agenda and enabling environment, adolescent, and youth well-being, empowerment, and participation in national and regional development. And that brings me to my colleague again back on the left-hand side. My participation over the last couple of days certainly reaffirms the youth enthusiasm and readiness to play their part in policy making for the progression of the CARICOM and for the Caribbean community. However, this does require the current heads to effect this change and get the youth involved. As a director of youth, what are the challenges, if any, do you envision adapting and implementing this document?
Well, of course, I think that we always have challenges, but nothing that we can't overcome. You know, whenever we see something that's regional, we often take a backseat on it sometimes because we want to deal with some of the national issues first. But in sitting around and talking to young people from all around the region, we understand that we have strategic issues, we have strategic objectives, and we have strategic activities that handle very, very, very well some of the strategic issues that we are going through as a region. I think it's important for directors of youth affairs to understand that there are some best practices that we can look at as relates to the activities that get young people involved so that they can understand the impact of the SADAP in their own personal lives. We've been talking to young people about what are the issues for years. I was a part of this process in 2007 as a young person, not as a director. And I'm now as a director saying that the challenge will be maybe apathy, but I think that we have enough young people who are doing the right thing at the right time with the right people to get other people involved that might be wayward, to understand the impact of some of these great activities that they can be involved with, but also to stand up and really speak to what this document can do, to speak to the activities that this document support, and more importantly, to speak to other young people for them to get involved. I think as directors of youth affairs, it is important for us to recognize that the issues that young people are facing are not simply national issues, but regional issues that we must really take a stab at together. One thing that was said here is that unity is the answer. And I think with really presenting a unified front at my level, and you don't have to worry because when we have our Director of Youth Affairs meeting, I got this handled, all right? So I will make sure that I bring my colleagues on board so that I can convince them of all the wonderful discussions that we've had. But I think young people, we have to ask you very nicely to bring your colleagues on board to be a part of this document, and we work with this document for young people together.
Okay. All right. Okay. And Director, I'm very convinced. Over seeing your participation over the last couple of years, I have absolutely no doubt. But just to, we're running out of time right now. I'm gonna shoot the final question at Dr. Douglas Slater. In your role as ASG with the portfolio for human and social development, what is your general vision for the youth of the region?
Well, I think the discussions that have come before will give you an insight as to my vision. As I said, as a not so young person, but not too old either, we are at the stage of our life where we have to think of succession planning. And I think we have to recognize that you, the youth of the region, are the ones we want to see being prepared to take the mantle of leadership in the region. And in order to be so prepared, activities like these are very important. I have a vision of the youth that will be optimally prepared to carry forward the role of development of the CARICOM region, to make their input felt, not just at the level of member states, their nations, but regionally and even internationally. In order to do this, you have to be prepared. You have to arm yourselves with all the tools available, including proper education. There are some skills. We talk about soft skills that sometimes the youth do not consider as very important, but they are. Most of us know the old adage that good manners and behavior take you all over the world. Very important. I just want to note, for example, you go into an interview, a job interview, from the time you enter the compounds, you're being assessed. Your deportment, your comportment, the way you address, the way you speak, the way you communicate. These are some of the issues that some young people take for granted and don't consider important, but they are. It helps to build character, it helps to make you more rounded. I mean, you must have fun, and there are times when you have to bling, as they say, but there are times you have to know there's a time for everything and what is important when necessary. I am optimistic. The Secretariat believes in the youth of the region, and you have a role to demonstrate to us that the optimism that we have in you will be fulfilled. So we look forward with great anticipation to the unrolling of the outcomes of this forum, not just immediately, but in the years to come. But if you tell yourself you can do it, and I know that you're telling yourselves that you will believe that you can do it and you will work towards it, we hope that you will be successful, because at the end of the day, your success will also determine our sons, how well we pass our sunset years. Thank you.
And thanks, Doc. And certainly fit in one welcoming awards, following the regional youth forum over the last couple of days. Let me once again thank the members of the panel. Again, Assistant Secretary General Dr. Douglas Slater, Director of Youth Bahamas, Mr. Darren Turnquest, CARICOM Youth Ambassador Barbados, Ms. Shadi Jamont, Chairman of the Caribbean Regional Youth Council, Timothy Ferdinand. I'm sure we're going to continue having more dialogue going forward, so you can stay tuned for that. So once again, I want to thank you for your patience. I know we had a slight delay earlier. Thanks for sticking with us and for continuing tuning. We're now going to ask you to even be a bit more patient with us for the next 5 minutes, where we change over and obviously move to the second segment of our evening proceedings, which are obviously featuring Ambassador Irwin, LaRocque, Secretary General, as well as CARICOM Youth Ambassador Dean Ms. Cindy Market. So we take a 5 minutes break and then we get straight into the next segment. Thank you.
You have power? You have outlet? Yeah. You have an outlet name?
You need power in the middle. So you have to run in there. Just have 5 to 10 minutes.
Well, give me a thing.
You leave it there.
Report card, report card.
Yeah, just put other ones in here. Everybody can get it. Is it this chair? No. 2 chairs you using? 2 or 1? 2.
Well, he's here. What's the camera have to do? Camera have to do?
On the computer. No, that one of them. Sorry. Just sit on the CPU. Sure. Where's the plug-in for this thing? Where?
You in a tick. You in a tick. You between the rock and the hard place here, boy. Where you plugging this?
Where's the flash?
I'll look by the end. Right there.
Between the rock and the hard place.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, it's okay.
Put it on?
You pour in it?
Check it now. Yeah, I don't put on the phone.
Phone on it.
Sit down.
As soon as I do this. Me? It's supposed to be like that. I mean, that not for one, right? It's a forward?
Let me see.
Sit.
Oh.
We don't need to do anything?
You
Yeah?
could turn it on for the people in there.
Okay.
You need to angle the
Yes.
camera.
Kishore. Go around and let me tell you
It's
about
the
mic.
camera.
The mic, camera, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit. Okay. Yeah.
Just a little bit more. Yeah, that's enough. It could come down. You could push it down. You could push the camera down. Yeah.
No, this good. This good.
We're not doing the video anymore.
Yeah.
I just started getting into the questions. Is anything else going on? I just started anything else to see what we're going to do now. I think I want to start going.
We're going to start at 8.
Yes.
Thank you. So bless for this market.
And then they were telling us to speak a little slow because of that. Yes, thank you. I think that's weird. Thank you. And put the pot over there. Yeah. Yes, better. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Cindy Morquette. I am the Dean of the CARICOM Youth Ambassador Corp. And I am here. I will be hosting with you the second part of the social media interaction. We have with us on this second part His Excellency Ambassador Mr. Irwin LaRocque. He is the Secretary General. And like we promised, he will be here available to answer the question you have been posting since a while ago. So we welcome Ambassador LaRocque.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Morquette, Cindy. And let me first of all thank all our youth for being here with us over the past few days. I understand that you had a very engaging encounter among yourselves, and I'm very pleased to note that we have among us not just the CARICOM Youth Ambassador Corps, but we have with us at least one director of youth. And also allow me to take the opportunity to thank our partners who have been working with us in the community to make our youth program a reality. I know Dr. Douglas mentioned that, but I thought I should add my own voice in thanking the governments of Canada, USA, the government of Japan, the government of Spain. I hope I haven't forgotten anybody, but in assisting us in rolling out this program so important to the youth of the region.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ambassador LaRocque. So this is how we're gonna go, like we promised. Of course, we know we don't have a chance to interact with Mr. LaRocque often, so we have this opportunity tonight, and we're gonna try to make the most of it. So from the question you guys posted, a lot of questions, we had more than one. So we're trying to put them together, and we're going to try to take as much as possible in the hour that we'll have left. And since we started a little late because of technical difficulties, so we're just going to jump right into it. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Mr. LaRocque?
I'm in your hands.
So I have a question for you. Our first question is from Lorato from Guyana. It is... we still seem to have a problem with the free movement of CARICOM nationals to some CARICOM countries since persons are harassed at some ports. What is CARICOM doing to address that problem? I can say I can relate because I always have to spend an extra 5 to 10 minutes at the airport for people to verify my papers when I have to travel within the Caribbean.
Okay, first of all, we need to make a distinction between what we term free movement of certain categories of skilled nationals and hassle-free travel. There is a distinction to be made. In accordance with the provisions of the treaty which guides our work in the community, certain categories of persons are free to move to engage in employment. But I think what you are referring to is the entrance at the treatment which is meted out at ports of entry to our nationals of the community. Let me say that the recent ruling by the Caribbean Court of Justice on the Shanik Mary case, while of course addressing a particular complaint by Ms. Shanik Mary of Jamaica, also made some fundamental pronouncements, judgments on the issue of how one should treat nationals when they seek to enter a member state of the community. The CCJ is part of the overall construct of our integration arrangements. It finds its place first and foremost in the Treaty of Chaguaramas. So I'm saying so to say that when we were framing the revised treaty, when the framers of the revised treaty were doing their work, they anticipated that they needed to have a mechanism to allow for enforcement of decisions. And hence we see the CCJ at work and responding to the needs of our citizens. The judgment has come down. We are, the Secretariat, already engaging with member states in terms of how we should take into account the judgment by the CCJ on how you treat. There are certain conditions upon which a member state would continue to have the ability to refuse entry, but at the same time it must be done in a way that is conducive to allowing for hassle-free travel. And we will be working with the chief immigration officers in all of our member states and to have a common understanding on how to roll this out. I think you're going to see an improvement. I am told, incidentally, that there have been some improvements in ports of entry already.
Yes, well, we hope so, and then we are looking forward to it. Well, we're going to quickly jump to the next question. Mm-hmm. And this one is also from Guyana. The person didn't state his name. But with all the delays of implementing CSME, well, for those who don't know, the CSME is CARICOM Single Market and Economy. It is a model that CARICOM is trying to implement that is the free movement of goods and people, to always also in the same perspective, following I could say the model of the European Union, who has the same one currency. Let's say you get the Schengen visa and then you can go everywhere in Europe. So that is the CSME. This is what we're trying to implement. So with all the delays in implementing CSME, do you think CARICOM governments are working towards it as much as they should?
I have no doubt that we are in fact working towards the realization of a CARICOM single market economy. I'll be the first to say that I wish we could have been a lot further than where we are now. But there are certain realities that one has to take into account as you move along the continuum of regional integration. The further along the continuum, as you deepen your integration, of course it becomes a little more challenging in terms of getting everything done at the same time. One of the things that we're doing in the whole change process, and I'm sure we'll get a question or you'll want me to explain the change process that we've embarked upon, is to precisely look at the issue of implementation. Implementation of not just issues pertaining to the CSNE, but implementation of all the decisions that we take in the community to advance the development of our region. That's an integral part of our strategic plan going forward, which we are in the middle of finalizing. And it requires us, all the actors, whether it's the Secretariat, whether it's the member states, whether regional institutions, to be accountable for their and be responsible for the actions that they must take in accordance with decisions to advance the work of the integration arrangement.
Okay, so we will take the next question. I have been following with interest the change facilitation process that is currently underway. What will make this effort different from the rest, and what update can we provide on the process thus far? This is from Simone Barbados.
Simone, I didn't plan that question, I'm sure. I began speaking about the change process. What is different? A number of things. First and foremost, we have started not from a blank slate. We recognize a lot of work has been done by so many other persons in terms of action plans and studies and so on to advance the integration arrangement. We've embarked on a consultative mechanism to involve a wide cross-section of our population, including, of course, the youth. And the CARICOM Youth Ambassador Corps was so instrumental in doing an online survey that has actually fed into the draft strategic plan, which we'll be considering tomorrow with the change drivers. A significant part of what we'll be putting forward in terms of the strategic plan would be, as I said, how do you monitor decisions? How do you monitor if you're making progress? How do you know when you've gotten to where you want to go to? And a significant element would be accountability. What are these parameters that we must identify so that all can play their part in delivering on advancing the integration arrangements? The change process there are two components to it. One is, we started off by first saying, looking at the Secretariat. We need to reform the Secretariat and we need to reform regional institutions. But I think our heads of government have taken the right approach. Where do we want to take our community? What kind of community do we envisage in the next 5, 10, 15 years? And then ask the question, what kind of institution do we need to lead that process? And that's exactly where we are. A draft of the strategic plan has been prepared. It will be considered, it has been considered by our change drivers. The change drivers are those persons in each of the member states who are driving the process nationally and working very closely with us and our change facilitation team. They'll be considered in the draft tomorrow. Once that strategic plan is adopted at whatever point, I can't predict when it will be adopted, of course, it has to go through a process of further consultations. Then we continue looking at the Secretariat in terms of how do we make our Secretariat more effective, more efficient. A critical part of the strategic plan is to identify as priority areas. I think sometimes we have too many priorities, and when you have too many priorities, it means you don't really have any priorities at all. We need to focus on some very critical priority areas, deliver on them, move them off the agenda, and bring on new ones. And I think this is the approach that we're taking in this time around. That's different from before.
So from what we understand, it's not an easy job, so we have to go a step at a time. All right?
Indeed, and we need the continued support that we're getting from the people of the community, in particular the CARICOM Youth Ambassador Corps, and all of the youth of the region, and I want to see that continue.
Okay. So we have a question that we're going to take online, because remember we told you guys that you could post your question. We're not going to be able to take every single question, but we will try to select out the ones that repeat more. So the next question is from Bernard Trinidad. It is, what steps are in place to ensure that young people that are typically inaccessible are reached?
Well, a lot of it has to do with our own outreach program at the Secretariat, which I have to admit starts with the Secretariat, but which also includes so many actors both nationally and regionally. This very forum here this evening is to reach as many youth as possible that would not normally want to get involved in issues like that. We recognize the value of using the social media, and we are on the social media. We've been told, we've interacted with youth, and we've been told by you in no uncertain terms how we need to communicate with you, how to be more effective in our communication. and hence we want to continue that outreach and to improve upon it. Also at the national level, the CARICOM Youth Ambassador Corps is part of our outreach, and I have witnessed some of the work that the ambassadors are doing in our various member states in that outreach. When I was in Jamaica recently for the national consultations, the Ambassador Corps brought with them persons from depressed areas to meet with the Change Facility team of which I was a part. And we intend to continue this. We need to look at, however, a more holistic way of continuing to consult with all our stakeholders in the region. And that, again, communication has been identified as a major priority for the community going forward. If we do not communicate, if we do not tell the people where we're going to, if we do not bring them on board with us every step of the way, our success will be that much limited. So it's going to be a major area going forward.
Okay, all right. So talking about unreachable people, people that are not very much accessible, the next question is mostly gonna be about disasters and environment, and it is actually two questions that I can merge into one. Okay, so it's from somebody, actually Vincent from Antigua and Barbuda, and then a fellow named Ralph from Haiti. They're both asking about environment. Okay, so Vincent asked, the recent flood and section of Dominica and St. Vincent and the Grenadines highlight the need for our citizens to be more aware of climate change and sustainable development. I know some work has been done and is being done by CARICOM in this area. Can you give us an update to our regional preparedness? And then Ralph's question had more to do with youth policy and regional policy on risk and disaster programs. Do CARICOM have a policy? And yes, how can Haiti or other state members benefit from it to write their own policy if they don't have one, or to change and fix theirs?
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for the two questions from our colleagues. First of all, let me say that the region had the foresight many years ago, going back probably as far as, if my memory serves me correctly, in the early 1990s, to have one of the first regional projects anywhere in the world on climate change. It was a project that was initially funded, I believe, by the OAS, to begin to look at an issue which at the time there were so many doubters about. Even today you still hear persons doubting that climate change is a reality, but we in our community, in our region, live it every day. And I want to take the opportunity to extend our heartfelt sympathies and extend our best wishes to those persons who were affected most recently in the heavy rains in the three member states of St. Vincent, Grenadines, St. Lucia, and in Dominica. We have two basic approaches to this. You need to make a distinction between disaster preparedness, disaster mitigation, and the more long-term work that we're doing on climate change. CDIMA, which is the regional body that is responsible for spearheading our efforts on disaster response mechanism. Those of us in St. Vincent and St. Lucia and Dominica saw them jump into action in terms of responding. They work with the national coordinators for disasters, national disaster offices, in doing precisely what I believe the second question was about, in formulating policies and programs, in ensuring that disaster mitigation, disaster management is mainstreamed, in ensuring that resilience, the ability to resile quickly from a disaster, which involves long-term planning, is part of our overall planning process. And CDIMA is coordinating that effort, in addition to coordinating immediate disaster relief. The Climate Change Center, which is located in Belize, spearheads our work both regionally and internationally on climate change. The work that's being done in the region, again, stems from, looks at how do you, in your planning process, in your development process, take into account the very real threat of climate change, which is not such a long time away. It's here already. Many of our member states have experienced coral bleaching which is caused by ocean warming, and that has an impact on the food chain, as you well know. Also, the Climate Change Center is very much involved in leading and guiding and assisting member states in the international negotiations for a successor convention on climate change. A major aspect of that is financing for climate change and financing for development within the context of climate change. So a lot of that work is ongoing. The region is fully behind it. We will be discussing climate change, of course, when the heads meet in February, given the importance of it and going forward.
All right, thank you, Ambassador LaRocque. We know that really environment is a real problem for us. Well, it's our big gift because we are the islands with a paradise, but it is also a burden when we have big storms and then we have disaster. People really have to fight with that and, like you said, survive and be resilient to the fact that disasters happen anytime, and then they have to cope, they have to get on with their lives. Well, we're going to continue. So the next question is from Mali. Didn't say his country. So is it some of our countries are putting financial gains over the environmental impact some of their decisions are making. Is there a way to monitor countries more closely to ensure that they are complying with global standards in order to reduce carbon footprint?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, all our member state governments are very keenly aware of the value of maintaining an environment, a sustainable environment for our long-term development. I do not have the impression at all, like the question that was posed, that member states are putting financial gains ahead of the environment. Certainly at the regional level, we also have a regional environment program which is looking to see how we can better coordinate and collaborate regionally on the environment. So the very question that he asked us to, as far as standards and in compliance with multilateral environmental agreements, we're working on with all of the member states. We have a program on compliance. All of these environmental agreements are negotiated internationally, and the Secretariat is working with member states on compliance with those agreements.
Okay, all right. Quickly, we jump into the next question. It's from Anthony from Jamaica. CARICOM is one of the best kept secrets within the region, as the average young person does not know much about the body, and if they do, it's the skewed view promulgated by the media. What is being done? What is being done to ensure that CARICOM's work, achievement, and progress gets to the average citizen?
Communication, communication, communication. That is the answer. We have stepped up our communication, as I said before. You will continue to see us improving on our communication modalities, and we're going to rely on the various media for communicating, not the traditional media only, but the other media which has a greater outreach. And certainly we're going to rely on persons such as yourself, Cindy, and our Ambassador Corps, and our change drivers in our member states. And when we travel throughout the region to do these consultations, the level of interest all across the communities of the member states, all across, whether they were, I'm talking about not just the youth, of course, the youth, but the non-governmental organizations, faith-based organizations, and the level of interest in our community and working with us to promote our community was very, very heartening. And we have to use that capital that we have in terms of that outreach to ensure that the successes that we have, and when we have challenges as well, are very well communicated with the people of the community.
Indeed, I agree, because CARICOM has done some amazing work on the past years. And when, like Anthony said, the average young person, CARICOM can be a secret to it. A lot of time you say, hi, I'm a CARICOM Youth Ambassador. They're like, oh my God, that's great. What is CARICOM again? So they don't even really, and you say Caribbean Community, they tell you, okay, and yeah, what does it do? And you learn that in school. So really, we really need a lot of communication and really go put it out there so we can really know the work that we're doing.
I think, Cindy, that sometimes we take certain things for granted. And I like to use the example of the Caribbean Examination Council. I know it is not yet in Haiti, but I also know that there's very advanced discussions between the Caribbean Examination Council and the authorities in Haiti in terms of collaboration. But that is a product of our Caribbean community. It's a product that we all take for granted. All of our youth sit a CXC exam, or most of our youth sit a CXC exam at some point, and we take it for granted as the community. The work being done by CDMA in post-disaster areas, I think sometimes we take those things for granted. That is CARICOM at work. CARICOM is not just the CARICOM Secretariat. It is a community of member states. It is a community of institutions that we have put in place to work with and to assist our member states in various areas going forward. And I think once you point out to our community nationals that these are the work that we're doing in other areas, in health, in for instance, and we mentioned the work recently being done with persons with disabilities, and the work that's being done throughout the region through PANCAP. PANCAP is a CARICOM project, of course funded by many of our development partners, but it was an initiative taken by CARICOM to address a very crying need in our community. PANCAP has been heralded as a best practice globally. So we could go on, and what it tells us by the very nature of the question is that we have to step up our communication activities.
Right. Okay. So now Henry wanted to know: it is now 4 years since the Paramaribo Declaration. It was in January 2010 on youth in the community. Since we're talking about youth, will the estimated Secretary General provide a status report on the recommendation of the CARICOM Commission on Youth Report, Eye on the Future?
Well, I think if our friend was tuned in for the first panel, he would have heard the discussion was what transpired over the past 2 days. Before. And when I sat in, I heard the good work that was done by our youth and the program that's going forward. There are a lot of things that we have put in place going forward. The CARICOM Youth Action Plan is based on the Paramaribo Declaration. The work that we're doing, for instance, on the CBO, the entrepreneurial work that we're doing, stems from, in part, from the Declaration and the Youth Action Plan. The work that we're doing with the youth in depressed areas and crime and violence is also a part of the action plan. And what I understand came out of this meeting is that the action plan is going to, you have a communication plan which you're putting forward in terms of promoting the plan both nationally and internationally, and I think we can expect good things coming out of it.
Okay, so we cannot talk about youth and not talk about education.
Indeed.
So Tina Reiner wanted to know, it is said that in order to make education more improved and effective throughout the Caribbean region, there must be a high level of quality and relevance to meet the demands of changing global economic environment. Therefore, I ask, what are the short-term, medium-term, and long-term plans to not only improve the quality of education in the region, but what are the plans to make it more relevant to students?
Indeed, the approach that is being taken in regional education is to prepare our young people. I don't want to say for the world of the future, because the future is here now. A knowledge-based society. That is the direction in which we have to pitch our whole education thrust, to develop the human being to be able to survive and contribute to the society in which he or she may live. Skills. A skills-based education program is an integral part of what we're doing, not just to promote the academics, but also the vocational skills, the technical skills that we so require. I heard of the skills being brought to bear this afternoon to solve the problem of the streaming arrangements. Mm-hmm. Some of these skills will need to be taught at the CXC level. I understand the CXC has already introduced training in ICT at varying levels. Our CVQ, our Caribbean Vocational Qualification, is also based on what are the needs of our society and how do you accredit persons. Harmonization of standards for curricula across the board, so that you know that the students who are coming out of the schools, no matter where they come from, have the same level of education. Accreditation of our teaching institutions, also at tertiary level, to ensure again that the quality of education is relevant. But I think the most important one is always to ensure that our curriculum is relevant for the development needs of now and for the future.
Yeah, in simple terms, appropriate education.
Yes.
Okay, which doesn't address a need there is not, but really the needs, what people need in different states, I could say.
Yeah, not just the academics, which we have always tended to. In my day in school, it was always the academics, and
exactly.
I think we underestimate. I took what was then the exams from Cambridge. Cambridge was the GC, General Certificate of Education. We have to be proud that we are now providing ourselves our exams through the CXC. And I know that CXC is constantly looking at ensuring that the curriculum is relevant to the day.
Yes, definitely. And then, like you also talk about harmonization. You want to help me? English is not my first language.
You're doing quite well.
Thank you. Well, exactly, because from people back home, like, they wouldn't know what is CXC and stuff like that, So even though if it's a different language, but that would really help to put people, you know, young people across the region at the same level, so they can really understand each other and easily transfer from, you know, high school from this country to from this state to college to another one, etc., etc.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're gonna take another question in the online. Okay, that has been just posted. It is, what impact do you think recent judgments by the CCJ will have on the development of CARICOM community law? The person is anonymous.
Well, the judgment, and I know some of you might think it's boring to read, but I think there's a simple, the CCJ has put out a very simple explanation of what it has done, and we have done the same thing on our website. The CCJ has recognized the importance of community law. It is not just national law, but community law. In other words, while you are required to pass legislation to give effect to commitments you may make internationally, the CCJ has tendered that once you've made such a commitment, there's a legitimate expectation that it will be done. And that you, in fact, it has placed community law at a significantly high level in terms of the commitments we make, member states make to the community. It has spoken about community law as distinct from international law as well. I think the judgment augurs well for us going forward. It has caused us to look at how we take decisions, how we make decisions in our communities. It's ongoing work. We have to be very careful that when we in fact make a decision, that the decision is going to be implementable to the extent that such decision confers a right on our nationals and our citizens, and that the citizens have a legitimate expectation, being part of our community, that such law will be honored. And I do believe, as member states, all our member states being democratic and countries that are ruled and governed by law, that our member states will in fact adhere to the judgment and the laws.
Okay, we hope so. All right, so the next question, well, we know that in the Caribbean, well, all over the world, we have all kinds of problems, but this one addresses a question from someone from Guyana, which didn't also say their name. It addresses domestic violence. It says, what resources are in place at the regional level to help member states deal with high rates of domestic violence among young people?
Domestic violence is an extremely, extremely troubling thing, and even if it's one case, it's a troubling issue. We have done quite a bit of work. The community appointed Dr. Rosina Wilshire, a gender advocate, to look at domestic violence. And in particular, she's done quite a bit of work on looking at the issue of masculinities, and that's a term I had to come to terms with, masculinities, and how it is that we at a home raise our children, and how we raise our male children as well in particular. The impression that we may give them about what it takes to be a man, a male, which I think sometimes is so contrary to what our basic tendency is supposed to be. So a lot of work is being done in that area with our member states in promoting through the various departments and through NGOs as well, stakeholders that work with us in promoting how, as young people, how we could address the issue of masculinities to ensure that issues of gender violence, domestic violence is addressed. We need to eradicate that as far as possible. And it starts at the home. It starts at how we raise our children. It continues in terms of what values we impart at our schools as well, and what values we impart socially, and the need for the kind of role models that we have. And some parents tell their young male children that they shouldn't cry. You're not a man if you cry. I cry. I've always cried. It's a good relief, but some people are afraid to say so. Exactly. And they're afraid they feel that being kind is a softness, and being kind is a richness. And sometimes being soft is a richness. And these sort of values that I believe are very Caribbean, they're very Caribbean. It's something that we have to promote.
Yes, I really like your approach, because a while ago my friend was telling me about this campaign she wanted to start with for domestic violence, and then she was like, we're gonna work with the males, and I didn't really understand. I was a bit younger, and I'm like, why don't you should work with the women, tell them they have to stand up for themselves. But she was telling me that they are victims. We should work with the offenders, re-educate them, and really make them, like, well, that's what she said, trying to re-educate them, try to make them see that this is not an approach to, this is not the way to, to deal with things. So I really like this approach that you have about it, and maybe a lot of people still see that they have to only work with women, but I don't think it's the case. It should be both parts if we really want to make a change.
I'm aware that many of our member states have made provisions domestically to accommodate persons who have experienced domestic violence, safe houses, for want of a better word. Just last week I was in Grenada, and the Prime Minister pointed out to me some buildings that were recently constructed that would allow for the housing of persons who have been battered who require some protection for the time being. We're looking at our legislation as well in the community to ensure that they meet muster and are modernized and so on. So quite a bit of work has been done and it will continue. I want to recognize the work of Dr. Rosina Wiltshire in being a gender advocate which focused on that area.
All right. Okay, now this question was asked by many people. It's from someone from Jamaica, from Trinidad, and also from St. Kitts, where they merged it all together. It's also about young people. It's all about us tonight. With young people making up the majority of the region's population and priority being placed on youth worldwide, what is being done to expand the youth desk at the CARICOM Secretariat?
Well,
we would like a big place.
As the Secretary General, I'm faced with all of the challenges of all of my various departments and units asking for additional staff. But I think what we've done, we have, of course, our youth desk ably led by Yildiz Bigley, and of course by Dr. Hilary Brown and the team. It's a team effort. The Department of Human and Social Development has an integrated approach to the work that they do. Dr. Slater may have spoken about some of the work that the team does. So when they speak of youth, it is integrated throughout just about everything that they do. In the culture program, youth is highlighted. Mm-hmm. In the gender program, youth is highlighted. And education, of course, youth and children. So it's throughout the system. But I believe we are about to, through the help of CUSO, which is a Canadian volunteer services organization, to provide us with someone who will work specifically on monitoring the developments in the youth program. So we're looking forward to receiving this person very soon. The person has been identified and should be on board very soon. I also understand that we have another development partner who would be giving us assistance along that line. So very soon we should have at least 3 persons, at least for a short while, short to medium term, to focus on the youth development issues. I wish we could do a lot more, but one has to. Part of the management of the resources that we have is to see how we allocate them, rationally across so many demands that we have. But I just want to take the opportunity again, once again, to thank those development partners who recognize the value of the work that we're doing, the value of the work of our youth desk, and who continue to support us. I forgot to mention UNDP as well. Aha, UNDP.
All right, all right, exactly. So I'm guessing the reason that we always talk about youth is because the Caribbean region has a really young population. We know that, like, for example, back home, we're like over 60% of the population is under 21, and I believe it's like that all over the Caribbean. So youth is indeed an important part of the matter. We always have to
without the youth in our development is going to be stymied. If one were to look back at the history of our integration arrangements, the youth at the pivotal role played at the time by the University of the West Indies, at a time which was a much more integrated university in terms of students from all across the region, and the role that those young people who came out of that university played in promoting regionalism in the sense of being one. And the work that is now being done by the CARICOM Youth Ambassadors and the outreach that you have. And the difference now is that you are outreaching not just to, as someone said, to those who are inaccessible. I know that many of you are reaching to those who are inaccessible. And that outreach to the youth, to make them feel that they're part of our development thrust nationally as well as regionally, is going to augur well for the future.
Okay. Now we have our next question that we take from the online. If you guys see me on my phone, it's because I'm getting so many tweets. So we have our team helping us with pulling out some of the most interesting questions. So the next one is: youth unemployment remains one of the CARICOM's greatest challenges. Unfortunately, it appears that several regional territories have dropped the ball in tackling this issue, or have simply
It's gone.
you wanna have simply struggled with self-wise. How does the CDAP within a broader CARICOM agenda propose to address this unfortunate reality? And this is from Jamal Brown. He is from UNDP Caribbean.
Okay, thank you, Jamal. I don't know that we've dropped the ball. I just think the task is such a monumental task. Unemployment rates among the youth is double the average of the adult population. And it is something that we have to really, really focus on in a bigger way. We have identified as a region some areas which I believe are naturals for our youth in terms of creating employment. I've referred to ICT. I refer to culture, the cultural industries. The youth have a natural affinity in both areas. The work that we're doing with the Caribbean Entrepreneurial Business Program, the CBOC program, which is funded, I believe, by the UNDP itself, is a start in the right direction. I happen to have met some of the people in the Bahamas. I met some of them in St. Kitts and Nevis. I met some of them in Dominica. And the response that they gave in terms of the training that was imparted to them for these 4 or 5 days, the actual practical hands-on approach. I met four youth in the Bahamas. Two separate companies were formed, one in catering and one in landscaping for homes. And these people are now gainfully employed. They have the view that they can create their own employment. So creating an entrepreneurial cadre, an entrepreneurial talent in our community. The work that is being done in our education system also aims at not only educating our people to go and look for a job in the private sector or go and look for a job in government, but to create employment and to recognize the creativity that resides in our young people. And that is the way we have to go forward. It's a monumental task. We're going to need the help of as many people as we can, many partners as we can to do this. But I do not believe that our member states have dropped the ball at all. It's just that tackling this is going to be a big job.
Yes, I think having the entrepreneurial approach is really a good approach, especially not only it creates more jobs, but it also develops the country, because job creation, then if you go and open your own business or your own firm or whatever it is, then not only then you help develop the country, then you create a lot of jobs instead of being one person going for another job, which you might not find. And so
I think we have to recognize the creativity of our youth, and especially in a knowledge-based society and an ICT age, that they can provide a lot of the solutions that we're looking for in terms of practical problems that we have. We just have to trust sometimes in the ability that they have. I met 2 young fellas recently over the Christmas holidays working. They started their own business. They started with a camera, and now they're moving into doing music videos and creating websites, from very humble beginnings. And when I asked, well, where did you learn that? They taught themselves. They basically taught themselves. And when I saw the product that they had, I mean, it's expert product.
Okay.
And I think we have to be able to trust the ability of our young people to
yes, and I think it is also that's where the importance of the teaching of skills comes to, and then it works together in education, because then if the kid doesn't have to follow the academic path, but if he has the skills, he can, with that, start something, and it all works together. And I think this is where it comes appropriate. So I have another question. We're gonna go back. So because what we did, we tried to take the best one, or because we don't know how much time we would have. I mean, how fast we would go. We want to try to please as much people as possible. So we're gonna go back. There is this interesting question. It says, animation is from MK from Jamaica. Animation, creation of apps, and online learning are some major trusts globally. What are we doing within the region to keep a pace with the rest of the world in the area of information and communication technology, ICT?
We have recently adopted a digital development strategy, which is going to guide the region's development of ICT in the next 5 to 10 years. Of course, one of the major planks of that strategy is creating a single ICT space that would seek to address the costs of broadband, which is so much required to allow for persons to use ICT to promote their skills and to promote their businesses. The issue of the cost of telephony, the issue of the cost of roaming. I mean, why is it that we have roaming charges to call from Guyana to Barbados? Why is it that we cannot just have a single? I know Digicel is moving in that direction, but it's only for calls. Now they need to move in the area of data and the other providers. We are looking to see how our community collectively can bring to bear on developing and enabling an environment to make it more conducive for those persons who can innovate, our youth, who are quite creative, to have the wherewithal to do so. Many of our member states are looking at the issue of providing laptops, and even more recently, I gather in Haiti and in other places, looking at getting tablets. And I was very heartened to see that tablets are now being manufactured in Haiti. Very pleased to see that. Part of a overall program to distribute to the persons in schools and to provide them with the skills. Also, the training that is being done through CXC would allow for persons to hone their skills in some of those areas. So I think I'm very excited about what we have going forward. I've said it before that ICT is a new frontier for regional integration, and we can only achieve all of what we want to achieve collectively. Individually, in negotiating with the suppliers of ICT services, one voice, one voice. The OECS countries, through their ECTEL organization, have shown us that when they stand together, they can negotiate to bring down rates which mean a difference for the people to be able to do the work that they have to do. Okay,
so we have OJ, also from Jamaica, who wants to know, I did pass this question, but I want to come back on it. With all that's being said, he probably found his answer, but I want to ask a question anyways. He wants to know, what are some concrete reasons why Jamaica or any other CARICOM member states should not withdraw from CARICOM that young people should be aware of?
Well, I think, first of all, too often we judge CARICOM merely by what I call merchandise trade, trade in goods, the products that cross borders. We don't recognize that CARICOM is a lot more than that. And I think, given all of the questions that we've had for the past hour, given the work that was done by the youth over the past 2 days, we recognize, I'm sure you recognize, that our work in CARICOM is not limited to trading goods, it's not limited to dollars and cents, it's not limited to business, as important as that is. Trading services, for instance, is a significant part of our CSME, of the integration arrangements. Cultural services, the ability for cultural persons from the cultural industry to ply their trade throughout the community, is an important part of the work of the CSME. Movement of skilled nationals is an important part of the work of the CSME. The work of the CVQ, the work in what we tend to call the social sectors, the work in the CVQs, for instance, is a community effort. The work that we're doing on HIV and AIDS, the work that's being done by the CXC, and I guess we can go on and on. All of this is part of the package of being part of our community. And I think it is grossly unfair or probably uninformed, misinformed to think that you can judge the success or failure of CARICOM merely by trade balances. There's too much that we can benefit from. And do not underestimate the voice, the value of our collective voice in the international community. We've shown it time and time again. The Caribbean community played a critical role, most recently at the United Nations, in the passage of the Arms Trade Treaty, a global treaty seeking to regulate the flow of illegal arms and weapons into countries such as ours. We don't produce any weapons, but they're brought in and the tool of choice for many of the criminal elements in our community. So I think we need to take into account the holistic view of what the Caribbean community is all about, what it is seeking to do, and judge us on that basis. And once you see that scorecard, I am sure you will say, well, what would we do without CARICOM?
Yes, yes. And I wonder, like you said, maybe it's by misinformation that people do misjudge CARICOM, or maybe they do tend to compare to other organizations that exist in the world. Because we have this question it's two questions that emerged from Guyana and Belize. They say, when you look at progress made by the EU, by OAS, and the OECS, some person are of the view that CARICOM has not lived up to its mandate. What would be your response?
Well, again, I'm going to say that there's a lot more that we could do and we should do, but I think we're doing pretty well. I think we need to, sometimes we're a little bit hard on ourselves, because if you have one or two problems, major problems, you think that the whole world comes crashing upon you. It's a natural tendency, and I think it's something that we have to counteract. I've already said to you all of what I think are the success stories that we've had in our community, the work that we're doing in the various areas. To compare us with the EU and the successes that we've made, the history of economic integration in the European Union dates back to the 50s. Our efforts in earnest in terms of what we're doing now started in the late 60s with CARIFTA, but even more so in the 70s and again in 2001. I think if you look at the history of integration, we started off by merely having a free trade area. We moved into a customs union. We're now working towards a single market and economy, all of which are progressively increasing and deepening the level of integration we have in our community. I think we need to be proud of what we have succeeded, what we have achieved, and our successes. We must herald our successes. We must also recognize where we could have done things better and seek to approach them in a different way to ensure that we deliver on them. But while you do that in terms of what you could have done better, we must never forget what we've done, the successes that we've done, and we must never take for granted the work that we're doing to advance the development of our community.
Yes, yes. So, Romaine from Jamaica wants to know, she says, I commend the effort of the change facilitation team and consulting with young people as they move throughout the region. But what is the strategy mechanism for further engagement and involving of youth beyond this point? And I will join that to a question that I have, because we know that youth has the energy as powerful, but maybe sometimes we might lack experience or the wisdom. So I am asking you what
plans?
No, not plans. What could you tell us, like, and how because we're young people, we're energetic, we want to engage, we want to do more work. We do a lot of things that have good results, but what can you tell us? What should we aim for, to get better results, and how can we participate more in letting people know the work that CARICOM is doing and how we can make it more effective in our communities?
Well, I think the work that you're already doing is in the right direction. We've identified with you some of the critical topics that we feel that you could help us to promote in your communities. You have a role to play in bringing the word to the far reaches of the corners of your respective countries. You have the information that we provide with you. You meet with us from time to time, and I'm hoping that this can occur on a more regular basis. You interact with us. We hear from you. We learn from you. And it's a cross-pollination of ideas going forward. And I think that you're well armed. The CARICOM Youth Ambassador Corps, those are the youth working in the CSME who I know you are working with as well. The youth in the CSME and the youth at UE. I'm not sure if there's anyone here from UE, the UE youth group. They're also doing work. And together, you are a formidable cadre of young people who can help to promote what we're doing, to help shape what we're doing as well in terms of going forward. I'm very, very encouraged by what's happening, and I can only see good things coming for the future.
All right, so do we have questions from online? We have one, yes? We said we would take the next one from you guys, because we do want to allow people that just come in that didn't have a chance to post questions before, that are posting their questions now, to have a chance to participate with us, right? It's an interaction. So this is a long one. Make sure it doesn't go black. Following on the periodic instances of reform driven by reports such as the West Indian Commission's Time for Action report of the 1990s, the Prime Minister, your expert group on government's report of 2003, the Technical Working Group on Government's report of 2006, the Lando Mills report on turning around CARICOM, proposals to restructure the Secretariat, and the resulting reform change progress. Is there a possibility for such reform to be driven by more constant means, such as through dedicated online suggestions, form with the suggestions being read and passed on to the relevant persons in the Secretariat or other CARICOM entities?
By all means. The first thing I want to say is that change is constant. And the person asking the question listed a number of different periods in our history when we have reviewed what we're doing. We need to constantly review what we're doing to always ensure that we're on track. And what we're doing now with the change process does not set aside the work that has been done previously. It builds upon it. So it's an iterative process. I want to get that clear. Many persons have asked me, well, why are you doing this? We've had the West Indian Commission, we've had this, we've had that. As I said earlier on, we have a different approach this time. We're going to be focusing a lot on implementation. We're going to be focusing a lot on communication. We're going to be focusing on interaction with all our stakeholders. That has to be a critical part of our strategic plan going forward. The how part of it we have to work out, of course, because using the social media and otherwise. And the recommendation made by the questionnaire, namely feedback, is one that we welcome. The youth survey, which was conducted by the CARICOM Youth Ambassador Corps, I understand some 8,000 or 9,000 people participated in that, provided feedback to us on their own perception. The questions for that survey were done by the Youth Ambassador Corps along with the change facilitation team. And we got the feedback, and that has found its way, it has found itself into the draft strategic plan. And I can only say that we'll continue to use these methods to allow for the youth interaction and helping us to chart the way forward in the change process. The change process is going to be a constant process.
Yes, we are looking forward to it. Well, time is running out. It's already almost 8. And I hope that everybody was satisfied somehow, because I know that 1 hour would never be enough to maybe ask all the questions that we would want to ask. But we do hope that most people are satisfied, and we had the chance in this 1 hour to talk about a lot of important subjects. We talked about job creations, about youth, about education, about violence, and most importantly, the work that CARICOM is doing, the importance of CARICOM. Maybe we're not there yet, and I don't think CARICOM is... I think the goal of CARICOM, the objective of CARICOM are always moving, is always ongoing. We are not there yet, but we are trying, we are working every day, and we are asking for the involvement of youth, of every sector and every department. It's a whole. So I think that from what you answered, that this is what people need to understand.
Indeed. Let me take this opportunity to thank you, Cindy, Ambassador Moquette, and the Youth Ambassador Corps, and all those who have served previously and who continue to be to work along with us. I know once a CARICOM Youth Ambassador, always a CARICOM Youth Ambassador. I want to especially recognize my friend Dwayne Goodsma, who has been for me someone of inspiration in terms of leading this program going forward as a youth.
Yes,
and,
definitely.
I get a lot of inspiration from him in going forward.
He's an inspiration
I also
for me
want,
too.
indeed, I also want to thank all of those persons who are online, who have listening to us, who continue to share your ideas with us, who have taken time to ask the questions with us, of me, and in the previous panel as well. And to say, please continue to engage with us. Please continue to work with us. And together we will succeed. And I just want to say thanks to all of you here in the room as well, and to our partners.
Yes, we also have some thanks we want to shout out to. We want to thank COMSI TV, the staff of the CARICOM Secretariat, youth leaders within the region, other youth leaders around the world, my fellow CYAs, CARICOM Youth Ambassadors, of course, and then new viewers who made this possible, and of course, your Ambassador, His Excellency Irwin LaRocque. We really appreciate, we know that you're always available to talk to us young people that has the opportunity to meet you, to interact with you directly. But it's now the world has the chance to talk to you, and then we really appreciate you being available to give us this time of your busy schedule. So we wish good night to everyone, and right before we finish, there's this one last person that has an announcement. He is a young person that is making progress. He wants to present his book, so we invite him to present himself. You can come up. You can stay here.
Thank you very much.
I think you need to shift the camera.
Yeah, it's okay. Your Excellency, this is on behalf of Dr. Myers Monroe, and this is a new book that he brought, not my book, The Power of Leadership, The Power of Conflict in Leadership. And on behalf of the Equality as well as the MMI, I represent him as his International Youth Ambassador. I would like to present to you with this. On behalf of Guyana and all that we've accomplished this past 2 days, I would like to say, Isi Kambuzu Sutando, Tando, and Ingia Bong.
And that means what?
That is Zulu. We love you and we thank you.
Thank you very much. It's an honor for me to receive this from you.
Thank you.
And from the author. I will read it with great interest. I have a great interest in issues of leadership. And I'm sure the youth also have a great interest in issues of leadership. So thank you very much, and please convey my thanks and appreciation.
I certainly will.
The author.
Thank you very much.
This is great work. Thank you, Ambassador LaRocque. And we're not going to forget you that we also used to thank. And again, thank you everyone for being with us. Thank you, Ambassador LaRocque. Thank you, viewers, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, and we'll do it again soon, I'm sure.
Yes.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you, Cindy.
All right.
Very, very good.